Carpet Weavers, Morocco, by the British poet Carole Rumens, appears in her 1987 collection Selected Poems. In the poem, the speaker observes traditional carpet weaving in Morocco, a craft typically practiced by young girls and women. The speaker describes their appearance and the way the carpet grows on the loom under their deft fingers. The finished carpet is then transported to a mosque, where it is destined to be used as a prayer mat. This process is presented as both a reflection of cultural tradition and a symbol of the unchanging rhythm of their lives, connecting the past, present and future. Rumens uses the poem to explore themes of childhood, labour, religion, tradition and the passage of time. This practice of carpet weaving is deeply rooted in the cultural and social fabric of Moroccan life, especially in rural and Berber communities. Traditionally seen as a female craft, which is passed down through generations from mothers to daughters, it is often done in domestic spaces or small workshops. From the words and phrases Rumens uses in the poem, we can infer that the children are probably involved in the weaving of Moroccan pile carpets. The weaver creates tufts of wool through knotting it by hand. A piece of wool is looped around 2 warp threads and is knotted tightly. After a row of knots is completed, a horizontal weft thread is passed across and packed down with a comb-like tool. The ends of the knot form the pile, or raised surface of the carpet, resulting in a raised, luxuriant texture. Different colours are used to create a preordained pattern. The children in the poem are very probably working on a vertical loom, otherwise known as a haute lisse loom. These looms allow the weaver to sit on a bench while working. As the weaving progresses and new knots are added, the bench is raised higher, exactly as described in the poem. The concept of cultural relativism, the principle that cultural practices and beliefs should be understood within their own context rather than judged by external standards, is particularly relevant when approaching Carpet Weavers, Morocco. The poem depicts the traditional craft of carpet weaving, which plays a significant role in Moroccan culture, especially for women and girls. While Western perspectives may instinctively view child labour as exploitative or unjust, cultural relativism encourages a more nuanced interpretation, recognising that practice such as this are often tied to cultural identity, economic survival, and the preservation of heritage. In this context, carpet weaving may be seen as both a form of artistic expression and a meaningful contribution to family and community life. The speaker's tone reflects this ambiguity, balancing observation and subtle commentary without outright condemnation or romanticisation. This allows readers to engage with the poem on multiple levels, considering both its beauty and the complexities of the tradition it portrays. The poem comprises 4 3-line stanzas, otherwise known as tercets. It is written in free verse, which means that it has neither a fixed metrical or rhythmic structure, nor a set rhyme scheme. Rumens instead seems to rely on the natural rhythms of speech and the visual symmetry of the tercets to give the poem its shape, while leaving the metre flexible and varied. Most lines, apart from line 11, are self-contained in that they are end-stopped with a full stop. Each line, therefore, corresponds to a completed sentence, much like each row of knots in the carpet is a distinct finished layer in the larger pattern. Not only does this structure seem to reflect the step-by-step nature of weaving, creating a sense of purposeful, measured progression, but it also reinforces the idea of meticulous labour and the slow unfolding of a larger design. The one enjambed line, "From their fingers the colours of all that will be fly and freeze into the frame of all that was," reinforces the idea of the inexorability of the passing of time. The first three stanzas have a linear narrative progression, detailing the creation, completion, and journey of the carpet. The return to the children weaving in the final stanza introduces a cyclical element. This dual structure reflects both the process of carpet making and the ongoing tradition it represents, and brings with it a certain sense of ambiguity. It's a productive, creative, and forward-moving process, and yet, simultaneously, a tradition that binds them to the same roles as those before them. This beautiful and evocative poem is rich with vivid imagery and figurative language, such as simile, e.g. they watched their flickering knots like television, and metaphor, e.g. the Garden of Islam. These devices help to evoke the process of carpet weaving, its cultural significance, and the children's connection to their craft. The carpet itself is a key symbol in the poem. It's more than just a physical object. It's a representation of cultural heritage, religious devotion, and communal work. The carpet's journey, from the loom to the merchant's truck to the mosque, demonstrates how artisans' labour is bound to tradition, flowing through different stages of use and purpose. The children's work is not only for themselves, but for a wider cultural and religious community, where their contribution plays a part in the continuity of this tradition. In terms of diction, Rumens uses simple, direct language to describe the weaving process and the children's experience, avoiding complex or overly ornate vocabulary. This unadorned style mirrors the tactile, hands-on nature of the craft itself, suggesting a grounded, practical reality. For example, words like braids, dresses, and knots are simple yet vivid, effectively conveying the scene without unnecessary elaboration. In terms of sound, the poem uses alliteration sparingly, such as in the combination of fingers, fly, freeze, and frame in the final stanza. While sound patterning is not a dominant feature, its subtle use reinforces the themes of the poem, especially the stillness and continuity of the weaving process. The title, Carpet Weavers Morocco, functions like a caption, evoking a sense of a snapshot or moment frozen in time. It's simple, descriptive, and direct, much like the titles you might find beneath a documentary photograph in a publication such as the National Geographic. The title locates the scene both geographically, in Morocco, and culturally, the carpet weavers, immediately giving readers a sense of place and identity. It invites us to observe, almost like an outsider looking in. The poem begins, "The children are at the loom of another world." A loom is an apparatus for making fabric by weaving yarn or thread. The image not only instantly places these children in a working environment, but also positions them as belonging to a culture so different from the Western reader's milieu that it feels almost otherworldly. There's a suggestion that their lives are shaped by values and practices unfamiliar to us, warning against imposing Western judgments, particularly regarding child labour. In the second line, the speaker describes the physical appearance of these children. Their braids are oiled and black, their dresses bright. The way their hair is braided or plaited and oiled suggests grooming and dignity, while the brightness of their dresses conveys vibrancy and pride. The speaker takes care to not frame these young girls as victims, but as individuals within their cultural norms. The speaker continues, "Their assorted heights would make a melodious chime." In this metaphor, Rumens is alluding to a wind chime, which is a decorative instrument made of differing lengths of glass, metal, or shell suspended from a frame that make a tinkling sound in the draught. Even though the varying heights is an indication of the span of the ages of the children, suggesting that even very young children are engaged in this labour, this soothing and elegant image nonetheless portrays them as harmonious and unified. Wind chimes create music through interaction and movement, mirroring the children's collective work at the loom as each contributes to something much larger than themselves. By likening the children to something as gentle and natural as a chime, the poet seems to acknowledge the beauty and rhythm of their lives, even if the act of child labour may raise ethical concerns for a Western reader. In the second stanza, the speaker turns her attention onto the creative process itself. They watch their flickering knots like television. They are absorbed in their task, the simile suggesting that they are as focused on what they are doing as Western children glued to television programmes. The image of flickering knots not only evokes the dexterity of the children as they deftly tie the knots of brightly coloured wool in a quick, repetitive movement, but also suggests the flickering of the brightly coloured pixels on a television screen that Western children find so hypnotic. The implicit parallel that this simile draws between the Moroccan weavers and Western children could suggest a number of things. Merely that both groups become absorbed in activities that are reflective of their environments, or perhaps that the Moroccan children are productive, creating something meaningful, while Western children are seen as passive consumers of entertainment. She continues, "As the garden of Islam grows, the bench will be raised." In other words, as the carpet grows in length, the bench upon which the child sits will be raised so that she can reach the top of it. The metaphor of the garden of Islam to describe the carpet itself is an interesting one. By comparing the carpet to a garden, the speaker emphasises its beauty, vibrancy, and connection to life, a symbol of spiritual and cultural flourishing. It evokes the idea of care and devotion, as both gardens and the weaving of carpets require skillful tending. The imagery of flowers and greenery aligns with traditional Moroccan carpet designs, which often feature floral or geometric patterns symbolising nature and spirituality. The metaphor also has cultural and religious significance as it connects the carpet to its spiritual purpose. Gardens hold a special place in Islamic culture, often symbolising paradise. This image also highlights how the children's work serves a higher purpose, as the carpets will be used in mosques for prayer, linking their labour to the spiritual and communal fabric of their culture. When the carpet is long enough, the children will then lace the dark rose veins of the treetops. In this metaphor, the image of the dark rose veins evokes not only the intricate organic patterns on the carpet, but also perhaps the creation of the fringe using the yarn from the warp threads that typically decorates its ends. Once more, the imagery suggests that the carpet is alive, pulsing with spirituality. The allusion to the treetops suggests the way that the children have literally built this garden of carpet from the ground up. When the carpet is finished, it will travel in the merchant's truck. It will be spread by the servants of the mosque. Deep and soft, it will give when heaped with prayer. We are reminded that this practice is not entirely spiritual, but is also a commercial enterprise. The carpet embarks on its onward journey to a mosque where it will be laid on the floor to be used as a prayer mat. The repetition of the modal auxiliary verb will in both the second and third stanzas emphasises inevitability and ritual. Each step in the life of the carpet, from weaving to travelling to being spread out in prayer, seems preordained, as though this process is part of a larger, unchanging cycle. This sense of inevitability suggests that the children's role too may be set or predetermined within the constraints of tradition. The carpet is described using the adjectives deep and soft, and it gives or yields under pressure when heaped with prayer. Not only does this evoke the luxuriant nature of the carpet, but it also conveys a sense of its sacredness in its role in facilitating worship and devotion, as the physical weight of the person becomes transformed into the spiritual weight of his prayer. The carpet, therefore, is imbued with spiritual significance, and this elevates the children's work beyond simple labour. it becomes a holy act, an offering to the mosque. This idea contrasts with how we might view work in a more secular, Western context, suggesting that in this tradition, work is inherently linked to the spiritual. The final stanza returns to the children still hard at work in the school of days. As soon as one carpet is finished, another is begun. The metaphor, school of days, suggests that the young girls are learning through experience and work rather than formal education. This idea connects to the cultural context of the poem, where girls may not have access to formal education in the same way as boys, and their role is more oriented toward domestic duties and religious service. The school of days may imply that the children's education is not just about knowledge, but also about the values, duties and skills that are passed down through generations. This could include their responsibility in serving Islam and contributing to the cultural and religious practices of their community. The poem concludes with the image, "From their fingers the colours of all that will be fly and freeze into the frame of all that was." This image also works on both a literal and a metaphorical level. Literally, the speaker is describing once more the nimble fingers of the young girls as the coloured wool flies into the design of the carpet. The potential of the wool, its quality of all that will be, to become a flower, a geometric shape, or merely a background, is frozen in the frame of the loom as it is knotted in place to become a permanent all that was. Note the fricative alliteration created by the combination of from, fingers, fly, freeze and frame, which subtly evokes the soft, hissing sound as the children manipulate the yarn backwards and forwards. Metaphorically, the image powerfully links the past, the present and the future, and this is enhanced by the enjambment in this line. It shows the continuity of the girls' role in society and how their actions today, their labour and craftsmanship, are both an expression of their present identity and a link to what was as well as what will be. The frame of all that was reflects how the children's work is part of a tradition that has been established long before them and will continue after them, almost like a fixed pattern, not unlike those found in the carpet itself. In conclusion, Carole Rumens' Carpet Weavers Morocco offers a detailed and vivid portrayal of the carpet weaving process, focusing on the children who carry out this intricate craft. Through her straightforward diction and rich imagery, Rumens observes the weavers with a tone that is neither overtly critical nor idealising, instead adopting an observational and non-judgmental perspective. By highlighting the rhythmic and ritualistic nature of the work, she invites readers to appreciate both the skill and cultural significance of the craft, while subtly exploring the contrasts between different cultural values and practices. Ultimately, the poem captures a moment in time where tradition and continuity are celebrated without imposing Western values onto the Moroccan children's experience. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques and English literature texts.